And it's an honor now to sign this incredible bill and get our country working again. Thank you.
Tonight in Washington, the lights are finally back on. After 43 long days, the longest government shutdown in United States history is over. On November 12th, President signed a new funding bill passed by Congress. That signature officially reopened the federal government and sent hundreds of thousands of workers back to their jobs. But while the doors of government buildings are opening again, the political fight that caused this shutdown is far from finished. This shutdown began just after midnight on October 1st, 2025, when funding for the federal government expired and Congress failed to pass a new spending bill in time. It became the 11th shutdown since 1980 that actually forced federal employees to be furloughed, and it quickly broke the previous record, becoming the longest shutdown in American history. At the center of the conflict was one issue: healthcare. Democrats in the Senate insisted that any new funding deal must include an extension of expanded Affordable Care Act subsidies. These are the tax credits that help millions of Americans lower their monthly health insurance premiums. Those enhanced subsidies were set to expire, and Democrats warned that if they disappeared, many families would see their premiums jump sharply at a time when people are already struggling with high costs for rent, food, and energy. Republicans, who control both the House and the Senate, refused to include that extension in their spending bill. They pushed for what they called a clean funding package, one that would keep the government open but without making new promises on healthcare spending. Neither side wanted to back down. The clock ran out, and as October began, the United States government shut down. The impact was immediate and very real. Roughly 900,000 federal employees were furloughed, told to stay home with no idea when they'd be paid again. Another 2 million were ordered to keep working, but still had their paychecks frozen during the shutdown. The effects were visible to everyone. Staffing shortages hit air traffic control and security lines. Travelers faced longer waits, more delays, and a wave of cancellations at major hubs right before the busy holiday travel season. Outside the headlines, the shutdown reshaped daily life. Families of federal workers lined up at food banks. Some workers took temporary jobs delivering food, driving ride shares, or working nights just to cover rent and basic bills. Museums, national parks, and cultural sites closed their doors or operated with minimal staff. Tourists arrived to find locked gates and closed due to shutdown signs. Economists now estimate that the shutdown cost the U.S. economy billions of dollars. Some of that activity may bounce back as the government reopens, but experts say not all of the damage can be undone. So what finally brought this record-breaking shutdown to an end? After weeks of stalemate and failed votes, a group of moderate and Democratic-aligned senators worked with Republican leaders to craft a compromise bill that could actually pass. Earlier this week, the Senate approved that compromise. On November 12th, the House of Representatives followed, passing the bill by a narrow vote of 222 to 209. 6 Democrats broke with their party to support it, while 2 Republicans voted against it. Soon after, President signed the bill into law, officially ending the shutdown after 43 days. The new bill reopens the federal government and restores normal operations at closed agencies. It guarantees back pay for furloughed workers and for those who were forced to work without pay during the shutdown. It fully funds key departments, including Veterans Affairs, Agriculture, and parts of the military and Congress for a longer period. And it restores full funding for SNAP, offering some immediate relief for the more than 40 million Americans who rely on that program to help put food on the table. But there's a catch. The bill is not a permanent solution. It only funds the parts of government that were shut down through January 30th, 2026. That means just a few months from now, Congress will once again face a deadline. If no broader budget deal is reached, the country could once again be facing another shutdown. And perhaps most importantly, the bill does not include the extension of Affordable Care Act subsidies that Democrats were demanding from the very beginning. Instead, lawmakers agreed only to hold a future vote on those subsidies in December. There is no guarantee that extension will pass, so millions of people who buy their insurance through the ACA marketplaces still do not know what their premiums will look like next year. As soon as the deal was announced, both parties rushed to claim victory. Republican leaders argued that they had successfully reopened the government without giving in on what they describe as expensive Obamacare subsidies. They accused Democrats of using federal workers and low-income families as bargaining chips, and then backing down without winning their main demand on health care. Democrats strongly rejected that narrative, they say this shutdown revealed the real human cost of budget cuts and attacks on the healthcare system. They insist the fight over ACA subsidies is not over and promise to bring the issue back to the floor of Congress in the coming weeks. Some Democratic leaders are already warning that if Republicans block an extension of the subsidies, they'll make healthcare a central issue in the 2026 midterm elections. Meanwhile, the American public seems frustrated with both sides. Recent polls show that more people primarily blame Republicans, but many also say Democrats share responsibility. For a lot of voters, this shutdown feels like another sign that Washington is broken and increasingly unstable. For federal workers and families who depend on government programs, today brings a mix of relief and uncertainty. Paychecks will begin to flow again. Airport lines should gradually shorten. Food assistance programs will regain stability. But the deeper issues haven't gone away. By choosing a short-term funding patch, Congress has effectively hit pause on the crisis, not solved it. The same budget disputes and the same healthcare battle are waiting just around the corner. If lawmakers fail to find a broader compromise before the next deadline, another shutdown is possible. Economists warn that repeated shutdowns hurt long-term planning inside agencies, damage morale in the federal workforce, and send a worrying message to global markets about the reliability of the U.S. government. For now, though, federal workers are going back to their desks. Airports are slowly returning to normal, and families who rely on food aid are finally seeing some stability return. The longest government shutdown in U.S. history is over. But whether Washington has learned anything from it, and whether ordinary people will be spared from another crisis a few months from now, are questions only the next deadline can answer.